What's going on, bottom line viewers? We are here live for your NFL power rankings for week 17 of the 2021 NFL season. In this video, I rank the top 20. We have changed the format a little bit, okay? There are a lot of irrelevant teams at this time of the year. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time talking about teams that are just not relevant, okay? So in this video, I will rank the top 20 NFL teams. Many of these teams still are relevant. All of these teams still have a chance to make the playoffs, and every single one of them will be fighting at the end of this season. I'm going to give you my thoughts on where they stand. But before we get going, guys, make sure that you do spike that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more BLV just like this. Also, spike that notification bell for the latest upload. You can follow me on social media at TheBottomLineView on Instagram, and at Mitch on Twitter. Okay, so before we begin, the NFL today lost a legend of the game. His name was John Madden. You may know him, depending on your age, in a few different ways. John Madden was a coach. John Madden was a broadcaster. And to some of you, John Madden is the name of your favorite video game, or one of your favorite video games. And for me, with my experience with the NFL, John Madden has been a broadcaster to me. John Madden has been a video game to me. I didn't know John Madden as a coach. Not that I haven't revisited John Madden's coaching years and understood what he did and understand how great of a coach he was. At one point, I believed he even held the record for the highest winning percentage in NFL history, and I believe he's still up there in some regard in terms of his winning percentage. He didn't coach very long in the league, but he was very impactful, specifically with offensive football, and this is a very special person. I truly believe, and I'm not just saying this because he just passed away, but I think that John Madden is probably the most influential person to do with football on the popularity of the sport than any other person that has come or gone from the sport. Okay, so I think John Madden, further than any player, further than any coach or broadcaster, he managed to touch people who loved the game, played in the game, broadcasted the game in so many different types of ways. His legacy will carry on in a way that I don't think many others will. 100 years from now, people might still know who John Madden is due to the video game. That might be the case. Everybody in some way, shape, or form has been influenced who loves the sport by John Madden. Whether that was the coach, the broadcaster, or the game itself, who he helped pioneer. He was a video game pioneer. He was a coaching pioneer. He was a broadcasting pioneer. He actually helped a lot of people with his voice through broadcasts be entertained by the sport of football and love the sport of football, and me included. Okay, so when I was a kid, the main group that I recognize as my childhood is Al Michaels and John Madden. That is my duo. You know, they were in the Madden video game. They were on Sunday Night Football. That is my kind of like how I grew up with John Madden. So I knew him for a while as a commentator. And I think the sport has missed him as the number one commentator in the way he broke down the game in an entertaining and educational fashion. And as somebody that has been through sports media school, broadcasting school, and has a YouTube channel and talks about the NFL daily, without John Madden, I wouldn't be here. And without John Madden, I don't think you'd be watching me. So that being said, I wanted to say that is the GOAT. That is the guy. Like, as much as we're going to talk about any player, as much as we're going to talk about any coach, the face of football, for my mind, in all facets, if you're breaking down all facets, that's John Madden. So, rest in peace, John Madden. To me, the GOAT of broadcasting. Great coach, great teacher, great everything. Okay, so rest in peace, John Madden. And now on that note, didn't want to make everybody sad, but let's celebrate the game of football by breaking down some teams in the NFL right now. We have the top 20 teams in the NFL. I watched the documentary and it was pretty crazy, the timing. I appreciate the super chat from Monty. Thank you so much. He says $4.99. He says, rest in peace to John Madden. The most impactful player to this football sport ever, will be remembered forever and will go down as one of the greatest. Thank you, Monty. Thank you for the super chat. And yes, you are 100% right. And I know that everybody in the chat, let me know how you remember John Madden the most. Is it the game? Is it the coach? Is it the commentator? Is it what duo? Is it CBS John Madden, Fox John Madden, ESPN John Madden, NBC John Madden? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what your favorite memory or moment or just how you remember John Madden in the comments. And let's get to ranking these top 20 teams. Okay. So let's kick it off with number 20. And my number 20 is the Las Vegas Raiders. And funny that the Raiders are number 20, because if you guys do know, John Madden coached the Raiders. But I have the Raiders at number 20. And I think that the Raiders are a team that probably won't make the playoffs. But I will say this. They have an avenue now to make it. And that has been opened up due to Carson Wentz's potential unavailability to the Colts this week. So because Carson Wentz is unvaxxed, I believe he won't be able to play. Now, they changed the rules today, and they changed the details of that rule today. If you haven't been caught up, probably just check Twitter or search it up online and check out the rules and how it changed. But Carson Wentz will probably be unable to play versus the Raiders, which means the Colts will be stuck with a no-name backup quarterback. That opens the door for the Raiders to win a game that many thought they wouldn't win. Last week, they won a game that I thought was going to be difficult for them to win versus the Broncos. They took care of business. They took care of business versus an undermanned Browns team. And even though I don't think the Raiders are very talented or a very good team, what they have consistently shown is they will not give up. What they will consistently show is they have a lot of heart, they play hard, and Derek Carr keeps them in a lot of football games. They have many flaws, but what I do think they do well is they have a veteran quarterback who can make plays. They have a couple receivers led by Hunter Renfrow. If they can get Darren Waller back at some point, that would be an X factor for them. But we saw Hunter Renfrow's been dominant over this stretch, finding the underneath areas of the zone. There's been a couple other guys that have sprinkled in, like Zay Jones. Josh Jacobs had a huge game versus the Broncos and came in big and through the backfield, running the football, catching the football. From the defensive side of things, they absolutely shut down the Broncos' running game. They are a good run defense, in my opinion, and they also have a fearsome foursome up front to be able to get to the quarterback. Their secondary is not great. Their linebacking core is subpar. But that defensive line and their ability to defend the run gives them a chance a lot of the times. So I feel like the Raiders, in an ideal world, aren't a playoff team. But in a year that is so questionable and so in the air and so wild, the Raiders do have a chance. Mostly due to Derek Carr, but because they put themselves in a position to have a chance. So the Raiders are at number 20. At number 19, I do have the Broncos, and I understand that the Broncos lost to the Raiders, but I see the Broncos, obviously they had Drew Lock in that game and not their starting quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater. I see the Denver Broncos as just a slightly more complete team than the Raiders, even though they did lose to them, like I said. It was a very tight game. It could have went either way at the end of the day. The Broncos led for a good portion of the game and found it slip away in the second half. But the Broncos defense is quite strong, especially versus the pass. The run defense has been their real kryptonite and their Achilles heel all season long. Offensively, if they can run the ball on you, they have a chance to be in the game and beat anybody, really. And the Broncos have proven this year that they can go toe-to-toe with some of the better teams in the league and sometimes even pull off an upset. This week, they play a Chargers team that they blew out. They absolutely blew out a few weeks ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Chargers adjust to that and to see how the Broncos look in a second matchup versus the Chargers. I like the Broncos. Strong defense. And I think with Teddy in there, they're a competent offense. I'm not in love with their team as a whole, but they do the little things, and I feel that puts them in a position to win. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they are a team looking on the outside in. At number 18, the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns are a weird team for me because Cleveland has actually played pretty well, in my opinion, the last couple of weeks. Their team has played well, right? But their quarterback has not played well. Last week versus the Packers, I thought the Browns looked like the team that we thought they would be. Run the ball, play solid defense all around, get a pass rush, make plays in that regard. Offensively, be able to dictate the pace of play, win the time of possession, and dominate the line of scrimmage. But Baker Mayfield was a disaster. He was dreadful. He was terrible. And there are no words to describe how he singularly lost this football team the game. The Browns are not a playoff team because their quarterback position is not up to par. And it is as simple as that. I have nothing else to put other than that. Cleveland as a football roster is fairly strong and honestly one of the 5 best in the AFC. But due to the fact that their quarterback position and their passing game can't seem to get it right, they do not belong in the playoffs. That's why they're at number 18. They'll give teams down the stretch here the last 2 games some problems because they're mostly healthy now. But their quarterback might not be able to pull it out. So we'll see how they end the season. They've got a lot of questions on their hands. At number 17, I got the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns are the better roster right now. Than the Ravens are. But the Ravens with Lamar have the X Factor best player, right? And the Ravens, what they've shown me is a consistent fight. Every single week, a consistent week in, week out punch. And even though they are not a team that has all this talent anymore and they've lost a lot of players, they make the other team beat them. They don't lie down. They don't give up. And in every game, they are going to fight. And they're severely undermanned. Severely. But they've got good coaching. They've got a Hall of Fame kicker. They've got a playmaker quarterback. And they've got enough at the playmakers. Andrews has had, I think, a really low-key, spectacular season. The Ravens are a team that you do not want to play because they can really just have an amazing game. They're the Ravens. They're the Ravens. I have all the respect in the world for the Ravens. I don't think they're a playoff team this year, But trust me, no team really wants to play them at this time of the year because you never know with the Ravens. They might pull an upset off that you don't see coming. At number 16, the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are number 16. The Dolphins have won 7 straight. They are the only team in NFL history to lose 7 straight and then win 7 straight. The Dolphins have a very good defense. I think it's one of the best in the NFL, especially versus the pass. They can create pressure by blitzing in so many different ways, shapes, and forms, and they can really just beat bad teams and especially bad quarterbacks because of Brian Flores and his defense. Their secondary is good. One of the better ones in the NFL. Offensively, Tua is playing well enough. He's making some throws enough to win. He's not really turning the ball over. And now they've found a little bit more of a semblance of a running game with Duke Johnson in there, who, by the way, they shouldn't be playing Phillip Lindsay over in any way, shape, or form. Jalen Waddle is the rookie that doesn't get enough hype. He's been amazing. The offensive line still sucks, but Tua has managed to, within this scheme that I think does a really good job of helping him find creative ways of getting guys open and different looks for him to throw over the middle of the field. He's been accurate, he's been on the money, and he's been very good in this stretch versus the subpar teams. They've taken care of business. Now they have the biggest challenge right in front of their faces with the Tennessee Titans. We'll see if they can come to play. At number 15, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings at 15. What do I got to say about the Vikings? Other than they're the Vikings, okay? Kirk Cousins is still a good quarterback. Justin Jefferson could be the best receiver in the NFL. I think their run game is a bit overrated, although it is solid. I think the reason the Vikings aren't as good of a team as I thought they would be is the run game has not been as good as I thought it would be. The defense is worse than I thought it would be, but that's mostly due to injuries, and I can't really get mad at that. I thought the defense actually played very well versus the Rams, but they have kind of given up way too many yards in the run game than I would have thought. But versus the pass, I thought they took the ball away versus Matthew Stafford, played a good game. I think they're still a dangerous team in the NFC wildcard because of their explosive element on offense, specifically Cousins, Thielen, and Jefferson, and even Conklin. But they're just not a complete team, and they just don't have what it takes in those close games. Their offensive line can't really protect well enough. Their defense can't make enough stops. Their secondary is too weak, and Zimmer is just maybe his time to go. At number 14, the Philadelphia Eagles. I see the Eagles as the 7 seed at the moment in the NFC. They haven't really played a ton of great teams on their schedule as of late, and we thought they would win a lot of these games. But they've been dominant in many of them, and you've got to give them respect for that. They are kind of the NFC's version of the Miami Dolphins right now, where I don't think they're as great as their streak suggests they are because they're opponents, but they're getting the job done. They're winning consistently, and if they sucked, they wouldn't be doing that. Jalen Hurts could be the answer if you can surround him with, like I've always said, the system that complements him, playmakers that complement him. Is he ever going to be elite? Probably not. But he can win in this league, and he's proven that. Offensive line's one of the best in the game. Run game's one of the best in the game. D-line is very quality, and Darius Slay is awesome. They have elements that scare certain playoff teams. I don't think they're going to get out of the first round, but I wouldn't be surprised if they challenged whoever they play if they make the playoffs in that first game. At number 13, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers, I have at 13. I know that Lance is now the quarterback and Jimmy is not, but I'm going to just wait and see how the 49ers look with Trey Lance. I'm not going to prejudge. I'm going to wait and see how it looks. So that is where I have them based on how they're currently playing. I suspect that Lance won't be as good as Jimmy, and There's a reason for that because he doesn't have a lot of experience. He's not a very crisp or consistent passer. He's not super accurate, but what he is very athletic. And for the Niners to have any sort of chance at making the playoffs and winning a playoff game, they need to rely on that power running game and find different creative ways of getting the ball to Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk. And their offensive line is really, really good in the run game, very athletic, very powerful. And defensively, they've got a really good front seven, but we saw their kryptonite in that Thursday game. The Titans didn't really outplay the 49ers. They kind of feasted on the Niners' mistakes with Jimmy Garoppolo making a couple bad throws and bad plays. But what the Titans did do is they feasted on the cornerback position of the Niners. That is one of the worst groups in the NFL. Despite having such a great front seven, their cornerback group is very bad. And I just don't see them being able to beat the best quarterbacks or the best passing offenses in the playoffs. But if they can find a way to match up with a certain opponent, maybe Jimmy comes back, they're still a talented team and they've got a very, very creative coach. At number 12, I have the LA Chargers. The Chargers are tough because they're one of the most inconsistent teams in the NFL. With Justin Herbert, they can just about outscore on any given week any team in the NFL. If he's playing really well, if he's playing gangbusters, he could be really, really good. But the defense is a huge Achilles heel, especially when it comes to playing the run game. They're a solid pass defense, but we've seen that they've lost a couple players in the secondary and they've been exposed because of it. Offensively, their offensive line's a bit inconsistent. They're a bit too reliant on, just big plays from Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. But I'm not necessarily trying to overreact to their loss to the Texans, but it is kind of embarrassing. At this time of the season, in December, you're getting pushed around by the Texans. That is a bit embarrassing. So at number 12, I just don't believe in the Chargers as a contender. I think they're more so a pretender, but they are a pretender that can scare every team because of the guy who's at quarterback. At number 11, the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are similar to the Chargers to me. I see them as more of a pretender than a contender, but their quarterback is a playmaker, and therefore those guys give them opportunities to stay close and competitive in games or potentially pull out games. The Cardinals' run defense is not very good. Their cornerback position is not very good. Their defense has been a bit exposed. You can pass on them, you can run on them if you have the right personnel. But offensively, they're still one of the better offenses in the NFL all around. I like what Chase Edmonds brought to this offense a week ago versus the Colts. And without D-Hop, they're clearly lacking that number one target, but they have enough to be able to scare any defense and to be able to make them, prepare properly. You can't just sleepwalk and beat the Cardinals. So, yeah, the Cardinals aren't the team that some of us thought they were a few weeks ago. They're not a contender, but they still have enough to scare a lot of the teams that they may play in the playoffs. So the Cardinals are at number 11. Entering the top 10, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have Joe Burrow, who currently is PFF's number one graded quarterback in the NFL. He has been awesome. He has been unbelievable. His pocket presence, his accuracy, and his ability to just win games with little to no pass protection has been super impressive. He wills his team to a lot of big plays and wins. And because of their offense, especially their explosive passing attack, led by Joe Burrow, led by Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, they are a team that can go toe-to-toe with the best offenses in the NFL. And they have enough on defense where I don't think they'll necessarily be diced up and down the field in the passing game or just overpowered in the running game. They're actually an above-average run defense and a pretty decent enough. They're not a great pass defense, but they're an average pass defense. They've got a couple pass rushers. Trey Hendrickson is a beast, and he's been worth all of the money. But yeah, the main thing about the Bengals is they've got a dynamic running back, a lot of awesome receivers, a very good quarterback who might be underrated, and a defense that isn't a pushover. So it makes them a competent team that you just have to be better than in all facets. Like, there's no clear hole on the Bengals. Their clear hole is they don't really have a great coach, and they're a bit young. They're a bit inexperienced. That might come to hurt them in the playoffs, but you still got to play all out, and you got to play hard to beat this football team, because if you keep them in the game, Burrow's going to make a play to win it. So, at number 10, the Bengals. At number 9, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are currently the number 2 seed in the AFC. So the difficulty with the Titans to rank them for me was balancing their recent performance with their early season performance, but also my projection for the playoffs. So the Titans are a weird team where I just have a very low expectation for their offense. I don't think their offense is very good at all. I don't think they protect well enough. I don't think Julio is really that good anymore. And they're just overly reliant on A.J. Brown and maybe Derrick Henry. I know that he's expected to come back. But, we talked about this on the BLV versus Consensus podcast, and this just kind of came to my mind. I was like, you know what? Miami beating Tennessee wouldn't shock me. And the thing about that is, if I think Miami can beat you, I don't know if I think you're very good. So, in fact, I had the Titans at number 8 before that podcast. And then I sat there and I was like, if I don't think Tennessee is going to be able to do anything or just dominate the Dolphins, do I really think that the Titans are going to go to the Super Bowl or have any chance of going to the Super Bowl? And ultimately, I just don't have enough trust in the passing game, the offense, the quarterback of the Titans. The defense is solid, but then when I also look at the defense, they're very good versus the run. They're very good with the front 4 pass rush, but the corners are weak, and you can pass on them if you get the ball out quick. And I think there's clear kind of ways to attack and beat the Titans. So that is what scares me a bit. I respect what they've been able to do. I respect their victories this season. I respect the run they went on. I understand their recent history. I get all that. I like Mike Vrabel. I just don't think they're a complete team. And I think at number 9 is about right. At number 8, I have the Patriots, and I think the Patriots are very similar to the Titans. I think they both have power running games. They both have quarterbacks who are competent players at this point, right? Mac's a rookie, but they're not superstars, and you can't really rely on them to win the game by themselves. New England has a better offensive line than the Titans, so they're not really going to lose the game because they just allow a bunch of pressure like the Titans can potentially lose a game that way. But New England, here's the thing about New England, and they're weird because New England was on a stretch that was amazing, right? They were dominant. In the last 2 weeks, they've been very unpatriot-like, and it almost has me to say, I think the Patriots there's easy fixes for New England, and I understand this comes from a positive point of view. This comes from a Patriots fan. But when you watch New England, the week versus the Colts, we know what happened. A lot of mistakes, a lot of uncharacteristic things, a lot of penalties. Versus Buffalo, they ran into a superstar performance by a superstar player that is very rare. It's the best game of Josh Allen's season. Point blank, period. And on top of that, they're still making these mistakes that we didn't see from them in these games, and we don't see from Patriot football. And this defense, I still believe, is very good. I just think they had a bad game. And you can disagree with me if you like. I think not having Nelson Aguilar, having Kendrick Bourne on the COVID list all week, hurt their ability to pass the ball in this game versus Buffalo. And at the end of the day, no matter what you say about drops that the Bills had, no matter what you say about this and that, the game was 27-21, down by 6 with 4 minutes left, and J.C. Jackson drops an interception at the Bills' 30-yard line. As bad as the Patriots played in all facets, as outplayed as the Patriots were in that game, and I fully admit that, They beat the Bills the first time. We all seem to forget that for a second here. But in the second game, they were outplayed. They were outplayed by a great quarterback. But at the end of the day, they had a chance to win, even though they played like crap. So that's all I want to say about New England, because I think a lot of people are far too negative about the Patriots right now. Maybe we were a little bit too high on New England 2-3 weeks ago. But maybe now we're a little too low on New England. And that's the thing I'm trying to do here with these power rankings. I've got to be able to level it out evenly. And that's kind of where I think New England is. I think if they can clean some things up and learn from what's happened in these last 2 weeks, they can still be a dark horse in these playoffs. But what they can't have happen is just relying on Mac and the passing game to win. Because that's not how this team is built to win. Most importantly, the word that I said there is built. They need their defense to perform. They've got to win on special teams. They've got to win turnovers. They've got to win in the little margins. That's a Bill Belichick team. They're not there yet with Mac or this receiving core where they can be Tom Brady 2011. They've got to be Tom Brady 2001. So from that point of view, this team is good, okay? There are negatives. I've went over those in the NFL review. If you want to check them out, go back. But I wanted to spin this in a positive form because I was pretty negative in that video. So at number 8, I've got New England. I do think they're still a good team. I just don't know if they have enough to be a great team. All right. Next up, at number 7, the Buffalo Bills. So Buffalo, I think it's very important here. So Buffalo has been a very good team in a weird sort of way. But Buffalo is a team that I think we kind of overreact to. They're a little bit of an enigma. So we can't overreact to Buffalo beating New England, losing to New England, losing to the Bucs in overtime, losing to the Colts by 1,000 points. Like, we've got to be even. And the thing with Buffalo is they've been a very good football team, and that speaks to their number 1 in point differential. They're top 10 in every stat except for run defense. They're top 3 in points for and against, I believe. They're top 3 in third down offense and defense. They've got a top 5 quarterback. They've got a good coaching staff. They've got a really good receiver. They've got a good defense. Top 3 defense statistically. In a lot of stats, they are very high. Okay? And they've been dominant. When the Bills show up, they're really good. Okay? But when the Bills don't show up, it's happened too often. The Bills have not shown up in a lot of games. And that's what's happened here. Okay? This team, when they're ready, when they're up, they're as good as any team. And they can beat any team. But they're also a team that they've lost 6 games or whatever because there's certain areas where you can attack them. If they're sleeping, you're going to beat them. So I feel like there's been some adjustments made by the coaching staff. I think they've evolved. I think something happened in that Bucs second half where they realized that they are a good team. I think there was a questioning about them after, the whole New England thing, the whole Colts thing, where they were questioning their identity, they were questioning their toughness, they were questioning how good they were. And I think now they realize that they are a really good team with a really good quarterback in a conference that is not very good, or at least doesn't have a lot of true contending teams. So the Bills are a team to look out for in the playoffs. They can play with anybody, but I also truly do believe that they can lose to anybody too. So they're my number 7. At number 6, the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts are a weird team to rank as well because we've just heard that Carson Wentz is going to be out this week due to the COVID. And hopefully YouTube doesn't ban me for that. Or shadow ban me or whatever they're going to do for saying that. But the Colts are a team that are everybody's darlings, are everybody's dark horse team, And it's maybe starting to get a bit too far, right? So the Colts have been really good. But in a lot of games, they've managed to blow it versus good teams. They're a good team. They're playing as good as anybody. Their only recent loss is to Tom Brady. I've said that a couple times now, and I believe that is true, right? They're a good team. They're a well-balanced team. They have very few holes. They have very few places where you can take advantage. They're a unique team because they have a very strong offensive line and running game. They've got a very good run defense and front seven. They're a fast defense. They're just an overall really well-coached team. They understand what they are. They're very good at playing through their identity. The problem with them is going to be Carson Wentz. It's been the problem with them. It's probably going to be their demise. And we'll see how it goes in the playoffs. But they are a team in the AFC that can knock anybody off because of their versatility as a football team and the ways they can match up with every different AFC team. No matter what you say about any of the matchups, they can play them and they can play them close, win or lose. So the Colts are at number 6 for me. They're a good football team. At number 6, the Los Angeles Rams. I've got the Rams at 6, and the Vikings game was really tough to judge because the Rams were missing some players in that game, obviously. So were the Vikings. I thought they did an impressive job of masking a undermanned offensive line. I thought Sony Michel played awesome and is actually leading the NFL in rushing yards over the past 4 weeks, which is super impressive and good for him. Sony Michel, man, I think he was unrightfully criticized as a Patriot and had a lot to do with them winning the Super Bowl in 2018, and he seems like a really good guy, so I'm happy for him that he's found success with the Rams. But besides that, they won a game where their quarterback, Matthew Stafford, kind of sucked. You know, he threw 3 interceptions, and this is the thing I've been saying about both Matthew Stafford and the Rams for a long time. So 2 things here. The Rams have won games where Matthew Stafford was the reason they won, and they've won games where Matthew Stafford was the worst player on the team. This was the first time I saw them win a game where Stafford was bad. So to me, that means that the Rams defense is kind of getting a little bit better, and they're finding different ways to win, which I think is good news for the Rams entering the playoffs. If they can continue to run the ball at this rate, if they can continue to pressure the passer at this rate, turn the ball over defensively at this rate, they've got a chance to go to the Super Bowl. So at number 6, I've got the Rams. At number 5, the Rams. At number 4, the Dallas Cowboys. So I've got the Cowboys at number 4. I've spoken at length about Dallas many times. I don't think much has changed in my opinion in terms of this team for a majority of the year. Dak is really good. I think he's back on track. He's not quite Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, but he's in that second group of quarterbacks where he can sometimes even at his best take over a game. And his receivers are really awesome. This is one of the best receiving groups in the NFL. Wide receiver, tight end, running back. Tony Pollard and Zeke is arguably the best 1-2 duo in football at running back. The offensive line is one of the best in football. The defensive line, especially the way they can pressure the quarterback, is very good. They're very athletic up front, which I think gives a lot of teams fits. The areas of concern for Dallas are, I feel their offense has been a little bit less consistent, and I want to see that consistency continue throughout until the playoffs, especially in the passing game. And then defensively, I think there's a couple flaws. I think their run defense isn't great. It's average. I think their secondary, you can pass against certain players in the secondary where you could take advantage of a couple mismatches in their secondary. I think they're a bit overly aggressive at times to try to make interceptions or create big plays, and they can give up big plays in the process. I think Dallas's defense is solid. Don't get me wrong. I do think people that are hyping them up as one of the best in the league are maybe a little bit misguided, but their offense is really good when it's clicking, and they're overall as a team, they've got a lot of talent, and that gives them a chance in the playoffs. At number 3, I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the problem with Tampa Bay is, I think, again, and I've been saying this really all year, I think Tampa Bay, when healthy, is the best team in the league, and I'd pick them to win the Super Bowl. Now, the thing with Tampa Bay is that Tampa Bay is not healthy at all, okay? So, Tampa Bay is missing a bunch of players. I don't even want to go through the list, but what could help Tampa Bay, spinning this into a positive for Tampa Bay, is they could find secondary playmakers and depth players that can rise to the occasion, fill in the gaps, and help them win in the playoffs if their players return. Okay? So they're expected to get all these guys back for the playoffs outside of Chris Godwin. If they do, I would still favor them to win the NFC. I believe strongly in this team still. And I think the underrated thing about this team is how the defense is starting to play. They had 7 sacks on Carolina. They really shut down the Saints, and that wasn't the reason they lost. They played very well versus the Bills, especially looking back at that now, especially for a whole first half. And then, what was the other game? They dominated thoroughly a couple opponents down the stretch. I think the Bucs, as a defense, will be really good come playoff time as long as they've got all their players there. And offensively, with Tom Brady, with AB and that connection they've got, AB is a problem. I don't know many teams that can cover both Evans and Antonio Brown when they are in the lineup on top of Rob Gronkowski. And now let's see if Brashad Perryman can come into the fold as a third receiver. We saw guys like Grayson and Ronald Jones going off versus Carolina. So it wasn't a big win. It wasn't a great opponent. But we're seeing these smaller role players take a big role and perform. And that is what you want to see going into the playoffs. And never count Tom Brady out. So at number 3, I've got the Bucs. At number 2, I've got the Packers. And I mostly have the Packers at number 2 because of their consistent winning. I've spoken many times on the NFL Review Show how I don't think Green Bay is as good as people think, but I'm looking a little bit hypocritical here by placing them at number 2. And I'll say this, if Tampa Bay was healthy, I'd put them above the Packers, but I'll say this about the Packers. They have not impressed me at all over the last couple of weeks, but because they've still managed to win these games, I don't move them in their ranking. Okay, so Green Bay keeps winning. They keep winning. Consistently. They keep winning. Okay? They keep winning. But, like, beating the Browns by 2 and Baker Mayfield throws 4 interceptions, beating Tyler Huntley by 1 the last 2 weeks, that's not super impressive. Now, the Packers are a team that are getting healthier. So let's see how that influence of health helps them in the playoffs. But at number 2, I've got the Packers. Right now, Rodgers is playing like the best quarterback in the league. That also helps them to be number 2. And at number 1, I've got Kansas City. Now, guys, I want to have 2 different perspectives on the Chiefs. So I kind of ranted yesterday about how I think people are kind of overhyping what the Chiefs have done. But I think there's 2 ways to attack this. So I believe the Chiefs' run of success recently has been overrated because they've beaten like the Raiders twice, the Broncos, the Steelers, the Packers without Jordan Love, the Cowboys without like 3 of their receivers, and all this stuff, right? But they've consistently won. They've blown these teams out. Their defense is playing very good. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, the NFL just isn't that good right now. And because the Bucs are hurt, because I'm not super impressed with the Packers, the Chiefs' run of success has been not great. But they've gotten better on defense, a lot better since the beginning of the year. They're not like, I still don't think they're like top, they're elite or anything, but they're good. And they're going to make plays, and there's no clear hole on their defense. Offensively, I still would like to see a bit more in the running game, but the passing game is getting back on track in terms of turning short completions into good plays. Mahomes is turning the turnovers down and being more patient and letting the offense work for him and learning that he doesn't have to be Superman every play, and that's helping them. So I think in the areas where I wanted the Chiefs to get better, they have turned it up. They have gotten better. That is not to say that they are so good that they cannot lose. And this is where I'm a little bit different from a lot of people. A lot of people are like repping the Chiefs as if they're unbeatable. That is not where I'm at. I think a lot of teams in the AFC could beat the Chiefs. But when you look at every team in the league and who's the best right now and who's playing the best and factoring in health and factoring in expectations, the Chiefs, I think you've got to give them the nod right now for being like, yeah, that's probably the best team right now. If they were to play every team in the league on a neutral field, who would be favored? And I think right now that is Kansas City. So the Chiefs are my number one. Those are my top 20 teams. Let me know in the comments how you feel about my top 20 teams. Bodo left a super chat. So I'm going to take a look at what he said. I did want to finish my rants. $20 from Bodo. Thank you, Bodo. Hopefully you had a Merry Christmas, my man. He says, boo Brady. Thanks, Bodo. Obviously, Bodo is not rooting for the Bucs in the playoffs, but he also won't be rooting for the Steelers because they won't make it. Hey, man, I don't understand why people think I hate teams, guys. And this is the thing. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate any team. I'm not as much as you guys like to think, I'm not biased. I just have my views of football. I just have my takes, okay? If the Chiefs deserve to be number one, I put them number one, okay? I'm not going to get mad about it, all right? But yeah, I do have my questions, right? And that's just what bugs me, and I think that's hopefully what separates me from Joe Schmo Blow on ESPN or Fox. I'm not just gonna lick the Chiefs up and down their damn franchise because they've won a bunch of games in a row versus Big Ben Roethlisberger. You know what I mean? Yes, this is live, Tyson. What's up, man? I'm not just gonna lick the Packers up and down their franchise because they beat Tyler Huntley on a 2-point conversion. That's not how this works. All right? All right, guys. And Monty with the donation. Where was it at? I read it. The John Madden one? I read it earlier. Thank you. I don't think you have any others here. Oh, sorry, Monty. I didn't see it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you all being here live. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you, guys. Shout outs to Tessa, Monty, Kevin, Anthony, John, Lafayette, Tyson, Paul, Ultra, Bodo, Neil, Steeler Nation, Durkant. John. Darkway. Shout out to all you guys. Later. Peace.